Let us first start with the Mangala Charan that is mentioned in this text. Eyes are closed and Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Bhujanmani Savilas Sama Moha Graha Grasaik Karmani. It's one of the most beautiful Mangala Charan we had. Here, the master is saying that he offer himself the namaskar to his teacher, and his teacher is the wisdom. Why? He is seeking the blessing of the knowledge and wisdom. But why? To remove the crocodile of delusion. You know, that delusion, that ignorance which causes the suffering in our life. So he mentions that all our suffering is like crocodile. When crocodile catches the prey, crocodile moves couple of rounds to crush into pieces, and then he swallows. The same thing happens with our ignorance and delusion in our life. So why he said that? Because he says that the real self is only one reality, that is of the nature of peace and happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. Open your eyes, maintain that awareness. We have discussed that first is the questioning mind should be there. A seeker should prepare a mind that questions, that puts the right question, that does not follow the impulsive and emotional nature. That is very important. In order to do that, we should have a dispassion. I should know what is false and what is real. I should know what is discernment. I should know what is dispassion. But normally we miss that these dispassion and discernment in our daily life. So it means I have to approach the teacher with humility in order to reach to that state of awakening. So humility basically is very important with the right question. Then we start listening and learning. Upadeshna, I covered this couple of times, but I'm just reminding you. So Upadeshna means the Shravana, listening and learning is very important. But after that, contemplation and meditation in order to get the result. And what is the result? The result is just to reach to the state of recognition, realization, and understanding that I am of the nature of real self. Our real self is of the nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. So, what we have been covering in this text, consciousness. Pure consciousness is the real self. That real self is of the nature of absolute existence, consciousness, and bliss. We have already covered, we have seen and witnessed that the consciousness is present in all the three states. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of the one consciousness present in the waking state. Why? In the front, that I thought, that ego consciousness comes. In the dream state, it is the dream, but the consciousness is present behind. Also in the sleep state. The moment I wake up, I had a good sleep. Who knows this? It is the same consciousness. That is how this master logically demands us to understand. Logically, he demands the seeker to understand that there is definitely something, some entity. It persists across all the states. And that is what our real self is. That is whatever. So the consciousness is equated with the existence. Then he picked up a very wonderful topic that we love ourselves the most, so we love others for the sake of ourselves. We don't love anyone. The moment you love others, it has an element of attachment, one option. I find the love within myself, that I'm of the nature of love. Now I'm expressing that love to the others. That becomes a real love. So the maximum joy comes when we discover we love ourselves. That is what we understood it. And now, but question arises that why don't I experience that state all the time? That permanent peace, that happiness, that love, that truth, and the wisdom. So I gave you an example from his teaching, the master's teaching. There are 50 students, one of them is our son, and they have a chorus singing. So that is blocking. So, how to translate that in our daily life? The mind is searching for pleasure outside. Why? Why it is searching for pleasure outside? Because there is a sense of incompleteness in me. One option. Second, you said, I don't know. Who am I? You told me that I'm of the nature of love, but I'm not. I don't see. But I find the love outside. So there are two blockages, two levels of superimposition. What is that two level of superimposition? One thing is sure, that when I'm sitting, mind is free, then I experience the calmness and the joy inside me. Calmness and the joy. Everyone experiences that. So it means there is a partial knowledge. I know that there are moments of the joy and the happiness in my life, and then there are moments of problems and worries and anxiety and duality and a conflict. So there's a partial knowledge. Partial knowledge means I don't know who am I. But then this mind runs outside. It says, I don't know who am I. Then I may be husband, I may be wife, I may be son, I may be rich, I may be poor. So you see the twofold, I project myself what I am when I don't know myself. So I don't know myself, that is ignorance. I'm just repeating, and so that I'm laying a foundation to, to start with a new topic that is explained in the three verses, the verse number 15 to 17. It is totally uncommon, and that is why I'm laying a foundation. So it means my current state is a mixed knowledge. We know each other partially. Complete ignorance, it is impossible. Why complete ignorance is impossible? I love myself. I know something about love. I know something about peace. I know something about happiness. Complete knowledge is absent. Complete ignorance is impossible. And complete knowledge is absent. So the obstacle to full self knowledge is like a background noise. I feel something, I should be in peace and happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. So that real self, Master says, proved in the beginning that it is absolute existence, it is consciousness, and it is bliss, permanent happiness. We need to prove it. We have already proved once but that helped me at the intellectual level. I can understand that there is something different than the three states. I'm not a waker, I'm not a sleeper, and I'm not a dreamer. But then there are something deeper within. What is that something within? How to approach that? How to approach that? So then Master says, what is the problem? Superimposition. Then what is this superimposition? It has two challenges. It veils what truly I am, and then it projects what is not there. Why we give an example of a mirage waters? I project myself. I project myself as a husband, as a teacher, as a son, as a rich, as a poor. I am the body, and all these are projections. But behind that, because I don't know myself, that is the first misconception. So I just made a brief of it. Now question comes. Now what is the question? Understand. But first to remember the terms. Key terms that we are using. The first term we are using, consciousness. The moment we use the word consciousness, it is pure consciousness. It is the real self. It is existence, consciousness, and bliss. We normally say Satchidanand Bhagwan Ki Ashok. Are you sleeping? Satchidanand. Oh, okay. Yes and no. You are paying attention. You are not meditating. Keep your eyes open. When we do meditation, then it's a different thing. So that is another problem. Consciousness. So when you say consciousness, now we are going to use Prakriti, another term. Why? You will understand. That is our topic, Prakriti. We will go into the deeper understanding. Prakriti and the three gunas. We already heard of the three gunas. And then why? Because I want to understand the superimposition. Why I see the snake in a rope? Why I see the water in the mirage? Why I see the blueness in the sky? It is happening because of the Prakriti. And it means, oh, do you mean the Prakriti has to do something with the world outside? Yes, for my perception. Perception is not solely depends on me. Perception depends on the object in front of me. What do you mean? If the form is there, say the wall is there, my eyes can see, nose cannot see. What is this? Can I understand this nature? So when I understand this, I can understand the superimposition. So the master and every Eastern wisdom, they follow the same tradition. The interpretation is different. So Prakriti is one, we will understand now. The third one is the three gunas. Three gunas, avidya. Avidya means the ignorance. Superimposition we have already understood. And the Maya. What is this Maya? We take Maya as something very negative, and then the Ishvara. Ishvara. But before that, I just want to give you a metaphor, an example. When I still stick on to that, the sum of angles, three angles of a triangle is 180 degree. Then master says, extend this line and one side of a triangle. Extend the other side of a triangle. So then it says opposite angle. One angle of a triangle is inside and the opposite angle are of equal value. But why you are creating an opposite angle? I want to know how to prove the angles of a triangle is one. Oh, that is the process. Did you understand that? That is why we have the process. We are saying this is the process. You should know Prakriti now. You should know the three gunas. Follow the same logic. Purely logical, no religion, no spirituality, no God. We are just defining everything and understanding intellectually. Uh, can I say in a IT language, it is a system architecture. It is a system architecture. So what we need? Consciousness, Prakriti, and the three gunas. Consciousness, pure consciousness, real self. It is Satchidanand. Prakriti serves as the source code of creation. Because I see the superimposition, projection outside. So Prakriti is a code, source code of creation. It's a primordial model that manifests everything in the existence. We don't need an opposite angle. But in order to understand, I need to create an opposite angle to measure. Same thing. And the three gunas. Three gunas, satoguna, knowledge. Rajoguna, activity. Tamoguna, opposing force and stabilizing force. Did you get it? Then there are two more words before we go there. One is the Maya. Maya is a feminine word. Maya is a power to manifest what is unmanifest in the name and the form. Girish. Girish is the name and the form, gender. So the moment you have a name and the form, then you can start explaining about this individual has a beard and is a teacher, is a coach, is a mentor, and he is name and the form. So unmanifest, when I was not born, unmanifest. Maya is a power that bears the name and the form, and we are caught in the illusion of the name and the form. That is why we also say Maya is also an illusion. Avidya means the ignorance. Did you understand? So you need not to worry about it. I will going to explain in a couple of sessions. So now we are going to define what we are going to define the Supreme Consciousness, Ishwar, or for the time being, God. For the time being, for the sake of understanding. We are going to define individual. You individual, I am an individual. Clear? And we are going to define this material world outside, material world, my computer, my monitor, wall, my car, my fridge, and your clothes, body, that also, body and the mind, the material. We are going to define the three things. Why we are going to define, keep in mind, I have to prove the angles of a triangle is. I have to prove that I am the real self, of the nature of peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. So now see, there is another issue that I want to point you out. We start from the causal level. We understood that we have three bodies: the physical, subtle, and the causal. Causal is the cause of both, the cause of the subtle and the cause of the physical. So what is the causal? Causal is Prakriti. Causal is, what is Prakriti? Prakriti is Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Constant, consistent, dynamic nature of the Prakriti means constant, consistent movement of the Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Clear? Causal level. Causal. So now we are going at the subtle level. So we have just clear. Now let us define our subtle level. What is Ishvara, the God? Master says consciousness reflected in Sato Guna, that satoguna is 99.99999%. Consciousness reflected in the satoguna is Ishwar. He is full of knowledge. There is no ignorance at all. So what about the individual? The individual in Eastern wisdom is known as Jiva. Jiva, individual. What is individual? Pay attention. Consciousness reflected in Rajoguna and Tamoguna is an individual. What about this material world? That is what we are defining at a very subtle level. And then we will come at the physical level. Consciousness reflected in Tamoguna is the material world. I'm repeating again. Consciousness reflected in Satoguna. Almost 100% knowledge. Ignorance is not there. Individual is consciousness reflected in Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Therefore, the moment we are born, we start doing activities, we are living in ignorance. Tamo and Rajoguna remains active throughout our life as an individual. Satoguna is there? Yes, little bit of Satoguna. So what about this material world, how it is created? Consciousness is present, but the consciousness is reflected in the Tamoguna. But I don't see the consciousness. Okay, the sun rays were reflected in a coarse stone. It is not reflected, you don't see it. But reflection is there. It is almost 0.00001%. Three things we have to understand from there. Why we are understanding? Again, I told you this is a model. We have to find out, we have to recognize and realize that we are the real self. Consciousness reflected in Satoguna, Ishwar. Consciousness reflected in Raju and Tamoguna. You are listening, I am speaking. Rajoguna, activity. Body is still Tamoguna. So, our individual life, we are that Raju and Tamoguna is seeking happiness externally. Just imagine about the superimposition. It does not want to go inside. Three things. The Satoguna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Consciousness reflected in Satoguna. Plain mirror. As it is. Consciousness is reflected as it is in Satoguna. Consciousness is reflected in Raju and Tamoguna with a lot of movements. So that is why we all individuals, what are you doing? I'm doing nothing. We stared at them. Oh, you do nothing. Okay. You see our nature. We have almost a negative connotation about the person who is doing nothing. And the God is doing nothing. And then the Jagat means the world outside. The consciousness is reflected in Tamoguna, creates these worlds outside. One more thing, and then you can ask questions, you can summarize it. What is that? Now that Ishwar, what I said, consciousness reflected in Satoguna, basically is all the individuals together, all the beings together. It is also known as the innermost self. It is the inner controller. Why? Because it knows everything. We will answer that question, why he knows everything, why that Ishwar is the controller. How can we experience that innermost self and inner controller? Everything is purely logical. There is nothing. Nothing is there. You have to understand that clearly. One more thing that I want to put it before we share the, we will discuss about it and you can ask those questions. So now the material world is there, world outside, the world of name and the form and the beauty and the fragrance and the smell is there. So it means that inner controller manifest. Yes, we use the word manifest, we don't use the word create. So that inner controller, finding an individual full of rajo and tamo guna, manifested the functional sense organs and the motor organs. And at the same time, that inner controller manifested the objects of the five senses, objects of the five motor organs. It looks very typical, but again, now the individual, you see consciousness reflected in the Rajo and Tamoguna. So I have to make an effort. In what way I have to make an effort? My motor organs should be there. So now you see motor organs. Again, they are at the subtler level. That is the point I want to make it. Why they are at the subtler level? We have an adapter. We have a power socket. We have a power socket, to start running the power to supply to the computer, to the phone, etc. So that is the physical entity, but the power is inside. So that power of faculty of my eyes is inside, and the physical structure is outside. So you see the causal, subtler, and the physical level. Power of faculty of smell is inside, but the nose, the physical, is outside. Same thing. Power of movement, power of holding hands. So you said consciousness reflected in the tamoguna created the world outside, and the world consists of five elements. Are these five elements related to my sense organs and the motor organs? Answer is yes. Little, those who have not studied the geometry, it is difficult to you extend that line and you extend this line, then you have an opposite angle. But logically, it's not very difficult. So what I said, the last point I'm saying. So once the consciousness reflected in the tamoguna created the material world, and that material world further manifest in five elements. The first element in descending order is akasha, or known as the space. The space is related to sound. Space is related to sound. Sound is related to ear. Sound is, so this, my ears can listen if it belongs to the same family. So it means the ear and the faculty of sound has to be related to space. Family should be the same. If family is different, you cannot recognize. And then we can recognize the superimposition. Oh, so everything is superimposition. Everything is delusion. I'm settled in my real self. But we have to reach to that state slowly, step by step. Now just think of it. First is the space. And the second is the air. Air is related to which sense organ? Think of it. Sense of touch. So it means they belong to the same family. What about the fire? Fire, we say sight. Sight, form, taste, water, smell and fragrance is the earth element. It is not this earth. So I just gave a brief example of this, to understand. Think of it, consciousness reflected in the Satoguna, inner controller, no change. It is settled in the knowledge completely. No ignorance at all. But it is also a macro aspect of all the individuals together. It contains all the impressions, past impressions and the vasanas. Second, consciousness is reflected in the Rajo and the Tamoguna. That I'm an individual. So I have to constantly. You cannot sleep for 24 hours. You cannot remain in Tamoguna 24 hours. You just, naturally you wake up and become active. You start listening at this moment. You are in the mode of knowledge. Just think of that. Knowledge, activity. So all the three gunas. So how all these three gunas, interplay of the three gunas is happening in me. Now I'm doing it. Who is this I? Who is this I? Please smile, Terry. So when I say you to smile, you really smile, but can you smile in the absence of cheeks? So how can you say that you are smiling? Tamoguna, material world, matter. Matter has to be there. So our scientist says that you can only smile. Now we are going at the subtler level. So in the presence of trigeminal nerves present on both the cheeks, Jerry knows, if they are not stretched, if they are present, then only you can smile. Some people have those nerves present and still they don't want to smile. Why? Because of Tamoguna. I'm just explaining everything. All our masters, we just play with that. We say everything is different. Oh, you're not smiling. Oh, it's because of Tamoguna. Not because of, you're not doing anything to me. You're not insulting. You're not appreciating. We remain totally relaxed. Do you see? So now you see that muscles, cheeks, and then trigeminal nerves, and now the connection between you listening to me and responding is also a play of the three gunas with the 5 elements. So once you understand that, once I understand the opposite angle, I can figure out, yes, that is it. Not many people in this part of the world, the monks, who come to United States for teaching, so then they are restricted to their, because not many Americans like those go and listening to those monks. So the deeper aspects of the Eastern wisdom is left out. So what is physical level, the asanas and the pranayama and the mantras, they became very popular. Because those teachers, who also did not understand, so they cannot teach. So unless you understand all these things, again, take any example, and if you start explaining with reference to these 3 aspects, consciousness reflected in the Satoguna, inner control, nothing happens to it, no change takes place, he is aware. He is aware of the Satchidanand, absolute existence, consciousness, bliss. So that is why he is Ishwar. Can he enter into ignorance? No way. Can there be any superimposition? No. Don't say it is a God. But can you intellectually accept it that as I am removing many layers of the ignorance, so there is a possibility there is no more ignorance. So that state is the issue. I'm not saying, just accept that it is a God. Don't accept it. We have learnt so much in this journey. So we have lifted our awareness. We are raising our awareness. We are evolving. We are manifesting what we are manifesting. We are manifesting the Ishwar in us. We are manifesting that inner self in us. Is it not? There is the journey, the true journey of the self-discovery. And then I live with the matter, material element. It does not make any difference. It does not make any difference. You continue to live into that state. Yes, Dennis, we will spend some time for discussion and sharing.
As I understand it, everything that we perceive is a reflection of consciousness, and it just depends on the reflective medium, whether it is Rajaguna, Tamaguna, or Sattva-guna. What is reflected is what we see then. But ultimately, everything we experience and see is the consciousness.
Is the consciousness. That's a beautiful way to present. Is the consciousness.
But I have a question here. If these reflective medium, the gunas, they are also a consciousness on the subtlest level, right?
Yes. Yes.
So ultimately, the consciousness is being reflected in itself.
Consciousness, yeah. Consciousness is reflected in itself because I continue to live in ignorance and I still have a doubt, who am I? So we have created a model. Simple.
So it is the gunas is just a concept to understand, and
yeah, just to understand.
In fact, it is as non-existent as everything else.
Yes. That is why I said, I want to prove that angle of the sum of three angles of a triangle is 180 degree, and still I'm extending that side, and I'm creating upon opposite angle. So this is the model. Why we want to model? Oh, you are angry. No, it is Tamoguna. You are different. Oh, you are happy with me. Rajoguna. I is not associated. So I'm free. You see, all those awakened masters, always play. I won't use the word trick, but this is the fact. How are you, David and Jerry?
I think that just what I'm sort of taking away from this is the level of consciousness is the truth. It's the core, and the constant flow of peeling the onions away or back to get to that pure consciousness is just with no reflection, no nothing. It's just the true source. So I'm just sitting with that right now.
Definitely, yes. We have many I's, I in a capital letter. We have many I am. That is the ego part. It gets a projection, it identifies. So we say, don't identify, it is gunas. It's a play of the guna. Why you are running after? The real I is already there. It does not change. Do you see? We will come to that. That is why the master is putting everything logical. Jerry, how are you?
Good, thank you, sir. I think that for me, the takeaway is that the gunas are part of the process. So if we understand the nature of each of the gunas, then we can prove and surrender to that Ishvara, to that consciousness.
Yeah.
And once we completely are able to surrender to that and not identify with any of the things that are changing, then we know who I am, that I'm consciousness.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful discovery done by our masters, that where there is a change, it is due to the gunas, because they continue to change, there. So you have a higher satoguna, so you are full of knowledge. You have a lower satoguna, minimum satoguna dominated by the tamoguna, you oppose this knowledge. You have a raju and satoguna, you are a seeker. So everything is played out. Everything is played out. But there has to be a knower. And that knower is the real self. That knower is the pure consciousness. When I abide in that consciousness, I have found it. It's not a big deal. But once I understand this entire journey, I found it. It's not a big deal. But yes, we have to go through the process. We have to extend each side of a triangle. Then only we can reach to that state. Otherwise, there is no way. Terry, do you want to say something?
I can't.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Just listen to it. You can't. So, tamoguna is restricting. Rajoguna, present in the mind, wants to say tamoguna is, but that tamoguna is not negative here because of the physical conditions.
When you talk, if I
Yes.
descend into duality,
Yes.
immediately when you
Duality is caused by again the three gunas. Once there is 100% clarity in your intellect, life changes.
I hope.
Life changes. Yes, sir, Ashok, sir.
Sir, all the three gunas are equally important, or we should have sato in the top one, then the rajo, then the tamu.
Can you make one guna independent more important? Answer is no. It does not depend on you. तुम किसी दूसरे कमरे में प्रैक्टिस क्यों नहीं करते हो? तुम कमरे नहीं है और यहाँ पे बिल्कुल डिस्टर्बेंसेस ना हो. हाँ? यहीं पे करना है. वो रजोगुना है. रजोगुना भी है, तमोगुना है. So you cannot have a luxury of having only the satoguna. If you have only satoguna, no activities. No activities. You are fully awakened. Why no activity? You need not to do any activity. You abide by the consciousness. You abide by the consciousness. Rajoguna, I feel hungry. So we will understand our individual entity as a real self, individual entity as the individual level who is living a personal, professional, social, and family life, an individual entity with an identification with the body, mind, intellect, and the ego. Once I have clarity about this, I see that knowledge, that consciousness is independent. How it is independent? What do you see, my left hand? What do you see? I see nothing. No, light is still there. Does it make a sense? What do you see, left hand? So when the light falls on the left hand, it covers, it creates. Now we enter into the Prakriti. What is this? This name and the form. How can I recognize the name and the form? Without consciousness, I cannot recognize the name and the form. But question is consciousness reflected in the mind, that mind deluded creates the name, it covers that consciousness throughout, and then I say it is a left hand. It happens in a fraction of a second. Science explains differently, we explain differently. Now what we are saying, the light is still present, light is present. So light is reflected in this left hand, so I recognize it. Question is, don't recognize the left hand. Can't you become aware of the light is still present? Light is still present. To recognize that light in the presence of the consciousness, everything is happening. Everything is happening. You become angry, you are happy, you are unhappy, and long list. Close your eyes. Eyes are closed. Eyes are closed. Just reflect on it. First, we place position in the posture. Very good. And being comfortable, being carefree. Pick up any statement, being comfortable. The individual is referring to the body and mind. Body is physical, mind will experience the comfort is subtle, but it is coming from somewhere deep inside. Instruction is also subtle because I am giving the instruction through the mind. I'm just asking you to play with it. Do nothing, just play with the three gunas. So now when you experience the comfort, do you need to do anything? You already have an answer. But then the moment your mind says, no, you have to do anything, it means there is a sign of discomfort. It may be because of the thought and the feeling. Now you introduce something, another principle. I said you like the extending the side of a angle, triangle. So what problem? Being carefree. The way we understand anything logically in the world outside, we can understand the same thing. What I said, another thought comes. Why it comes? So first thing we know it is because of the Rajoguna. It wants to fulfill something, or it wants to avoid something, it wants to resist something, it wants to leave something, it wants to accept. There's a long list. Millions of options are there in Rajoguna. So what I say, let me move to the Satoguna. What is Satoguna? I explained you. Light continues to be there. Pay attention to that light instead of the left hand. Means pay attention to the awareness instead of all the thoughts. It is done. That is being carefree. Oh, really? That is being carefree. So how we explain it, the thoughts are coming, you are not the thought. In the presence of the light, I see the left hand, then I see the right hand, I see the computer, I see you, I see my body, but the light does not change. It remains the same. Objects have variety, objects have different shades, objects have different characteristics. Mind, why you are paying attention to these thoughts that comes to your mind that leaves you, they have different shades and the colors, but why don't you pay attention to what is behind the thought? Who becomes aware of the thought means the knower and the seer. You are aware of the knower. What is that you are aware of the knower? The knower itself is awareness. So you are aware of awareness? Yes, you can say that. Until we reach to the final point, we can use these expressions. So now see, one is the knower in us, knower, seer, and the other two are doer. By the doer, we get the experiencer. Experiencer has two parts. How we experience the pain or the pleasure. The doer part comes from the Rajoguna. Now I want to make an effort in order to experience that state of higher state of meditation. You see the Rajoguna? Yes, we have to start with the Rajoguna. But now you experience the comfort. What do you want to do now? Now I'm already in the state of comfort. Yes, there is one more thing is required. That this is the comfort in the body. This comfort is not the product of your effort. When you recognize it, you are settled in Satoguna. I'm just playing with what the master is saying in the practice. No. I lost being comfort. I lost being calm. Tamoguna mixed with Rajoguna. Mind in Rajoguna says, oh, let us do it again. So once there is a state of the calmness, knower, you are the knower of the calmness, which is separate from the rest, all the movements of Rajo and Tamoguna done by the body, sense organs, past impressions, vasanas, and long list. Then what? I abide in calmness. What does it mean, I abide in calmness? I'm free. What do you mean by free? I'm free from all the limited adjuncts. No, but I never saw that what is limited. I'm limited to the body. That's why I'm making an effort. That's why there is an ignorance. That's why there is a superimposition. I'm just, in the form of an instruction, I'm just asking you, you contemplate, you reflect, you get rid of the Rajo and the Tamoguna as a doer and the experiencer. So it means, I will not be doing everything, no. And yes, both. You are confusing me, no. That I will not be identified with the play of the three gunas. Raju, Tamo, and the Satoguna will continue to change, will continue to create a different situation. What is that situation? Hunger. You eat. Ours, you go to restroom. So that I is not identified with any activity of the body, mind, intellect, and ego. Then what happens? You're totally free. You have a sense of freedom. Just I want you to settle into just experience the comfort and just remind it has to do with the knower, and the knower does nothing. Doer and the experiencer are always in a hurry. And then calmness or no calmness. Is the state of the calmness is the state of the knower. Is the state of the knower is the choiceless awareness. The choice comes because of the Raju and Tamoguna. Just you have to have a clear understanding of that. So only understanding is required. Saturday's journey, Master says you understand, and then I'm angry. No, you are not angry. You identified false I with Raju and Tamoguna mix. So I am plus anger is happening because of the three gunas. Why that remains cryptic, encrypted and secret, because those who are non-seekers, they will exploit these principles. Listen to it and find out this play of the Sato, Raju and Tamoguna. Rajoguna helps me to reach to the Satoguna. So it is a helper. How can you get rid of these two? Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. You are moving, Raju. You are doing a Rajuguna in the presence of the Satoguna. Otherwise, it is not possible. Bring your both the palms on your eyes. You are listening in the mode of Raju plus Satoguna. And know your experiences. You are understanding because of the Satoguna. Bring your hands down. You are confusing me. No, I'm not removing the confusion. How are you, Dennis? We still have 10 minutes. No worries, Jerry.
I was just thinking that the key is identifying with these three gunas and the play of these three gunas that give birth to all our perceptions, the body, the mind, and everything we see, feel. So we just have to find out how to do that de-identification. And the other thing I was thinking about, the incomplete knowledge that you mentioned in the beginning. So basically any knowledge that is obtained through the sense organs and the mind is incomplete. And can easily prove that, because it is possible to finalize any worldly knowledge. There always is a room for improvement, for finding something deeper and subtler, and there is never an end to it. So that any knowledge we have is incomplete. And it appears that the Eastern wisdom offers us final knowledge
Yes.
that contains all other knowledges possible and impossible.
Beautiful. I could say a simple thing. You rightly said the sensual knowledge gained by the sense organs is always incomplete. We apply our intellect all the time for the knowledge and we are not aware. Eastern wisdom says, why don't you be aware? What do you say? You are Danish. It is the intellect who knows you are Danish, not my sense organs. Eyes does not know. Intellect knows your gender. And the mind assumes, okay, yes, you belong to this age group. And it is the same intellect, you belong to Ukraine. Look at it. 99.9% of the knowledge, intellect. We have to set this intellect right. Remove the incomplete knowledge about yourself. You will find yourself. That is what we are doing. Are you David and Jerry?
Thank you. The mind is very peaceful, calm, and left with reflection on the three gunas. So thank you.
Yes. That is what happens. It is, so either I am a doer, it means I make an effort to reach to the meditation. So when the Buddha says it is not possible, why it is not possible? Because that consciousness transcends the three gunas. So they are right. So what happens even by listening and understanding, your mind settles into the knowing state. It is not a doing state. So obviously what you say is right. How are you, Jerry?
I'm good. Thank you, sir. It was a really deep lesson, I feel like. And I think that the nature and everything that changes feeds our senses. And the consciousness feeds our whole being, who we are, our essence, and really is the only thing that feeds our being. And if we can see that foremost and then allow the senses to play, then we'll be free.
Yes. Another great master, Ashtavakra, says that where there is ego, there is a bondage. Where there is no ego, there is freedom. So now you take that ego in a very comprehensive identification with my, for example, anger. I'm angry. But I cannot find out that anger is totally separate and different than me. And what is this me? The me has two parts. One is the false I and other is the real. But how to understand the entire process? Understand that is the way we are following the teaching of this master. I become angry over you. You means the body. Body is made up of 5 elements. Mind is also made up of 5 elements. The end product is anger is also belongs to the 5 elements and the 3 gunas. So now if you think like this, why the hell I'm becoming angry? Is there any use? I'm just giving an example. We will go deeper into that. We'll find out is real anger has an element of 5 elements or not. We will find out. We will explore. How are you, Ashok?
Sir, I'm peaceful and
Very
things are
good.
clear. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Terry doesn't want to say anything. Contemplate and reflect. You are at the optimum level of your well being, Terry. You are the real self. You are not the body and the mind. Where is the problem? And where is the smile? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.